Some lobby groups and political parties in the Western Cape want the transfer of powers from national government to the province when it comes to policing. The Western Cape Devolution Working Group aims to clear legislative hurdles that block provincial government from directly consulting with the people, they say. The group had previously wanted control of policing in the province, but now the request was shut down by Police Minister Bheki Cele. Let's look at what it all means with Dr. Jean Redpath, Senior Researcher with the Dullah Omar Institute. A very good afternoon to you, Doctor. Thank you for your time. Practically, what is the goal here and how would it work?
Well, that's not clear. If we go back to the interim constitution, that model saw the provincial NECs having power over the functions of provincial commissioners of the South African Police. That model was then discarded when the final constitution was written. And in fact, the constitution was almost not certified because of the dilution of the policing powers at that time. So it's not clear if that's the sort of model that this group is looking for, or whether what they're looking for is actually an entirely new service. So in other words, not political control of the SAPS, but an entirely new body that would then receive powers to carry out policing in the province.
And the Western Cape's battle with crime is well documented. You look at areas that have become no-go areas even for police officers who after dark tell you it's simply too dangerous. We've had teams of reporters who go there and unless there's a police escort are unable to link live with us in the evening. But is the main problem to do with where power over policing control lies, it being national? Is that really the main problem?
So whether something is centrally controlled or decentralized, whether that is a good or a bad thing is highly dependent on the contexts. And my research, cross-country research, tends to show that a sort of a more decentralized policing arrangement emerges when the human development of the particular country or area is around at the level of 6 on the Human Development Index. And South Africa passed that level some years ago. The entire country is now over the level of 6. But that research also showed that it's more successful, in other words, that there's trust and that the decentralized system works at a kind of a threshold level of a human development of 8. And most of South Africa is not there. The closest provinces that are at that, getting closer to the human development of 8, include the Western Cape and Gauteng. And so it may be somewhat premature for that, the complete model of complete decentralization to work. What could work is an incremental distribution of powers down. And in fact, we've already seen that happen. Many powers and functions are already exercised by municipal police, metro police, across the country, including obligations in relation to domestic violence. They are obliged to assist people who are suffering from domestic violence assaults. There's obligations and powers of arrest, search and seizure on a range of functions. And what we've seen is that cities in particular, not so much provinces, cities who have municipal police forces are kind of plugging the gaps for the South African Police Service. And this has to come from their own funding because the SAPS Act, in terms of which municipal police are created, says that there can't be funding from a province or from any other entity.
Right.
And so in Cape Town, what they've done is to get around this is to make use of law enforcement services. So this is not the formally established municipal police, but law enforcement, which municipalities also have. And in that respect, what the Western Cape province has done is to fund additional law enforcement officers in the worst murder hotspots of the Western Cape. And in fact, that has been surprisingly successful. I was skeptical myself. I did an analysis. And what we're seeing is in those areas there's actually been a reduction in murder, whereas in the rest of the country and the rest of the province, there's an increase in murder.
Would there be implications, just finally, Doctor, for the ability then, if these powers were to be transferred more to a local level, would there be implications for the ability to collaborate, cooperate with the broader SAPS network, so to speak?
So, I mean, the key to good policing and a good criminal justice system is intergovernmental cooperation. So even in countries which have multiple levels of policing at local, provincial and national level, the key is cooperation. And actually what we're starting to see in South Africa is very good cooperation with municipal and SAPS, as there's a greater political will to deal with the crime process. And the concern is that political will perhaps be affected if there's too much of a push. On the other hand, if SAPS is not delivering, perhaps it should take help from wherever it can find it.
Dr. Jean Redpath, good to speak to you. Thank you for your time.